Fear is the invisible chain that keeps so many people from living the life they truly deserve. It whispers doubts, paints worst-case scenarios, and convinces you that you are not capable enough to step into the fullness of your potential. But the truth is, fear is not a wall, it is a veil. Once you decide to push through it, you realize it was never as powerful as you thought. Every time you allow fear to control your choices, you give away a piece of your life to something that doesn't deserve it. But every time you stand up, every time you take action in spite of the trembling, in spite of the uncertainty, you grow stronger, more alive, and more unstoppable. Think about the moments when you almost didn't take the leap. Maybe it was the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being enough. And yet deep down, there was a fire telling you that you were made for more. That fire has always been inside you, waiting for you to trust it, waiting for you to trust yourself. The difference between those who live fully and those who merely exist is not that one has no fear and the other does. It's that one chooses to act in the face of fear while the other lets fear win. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something greater than fear is worth the risk. When you confront your fears, you don't just conquer the moment. You transform your entire life. Fear tells you to stay in the comfort zone, but comfort zones never lead to growth. Life begins at the edge of your comfort, where uncertainty lives and greatness is born. The person you dream of becoming is not found in safety. They are waiting for you on the other side of fear. Every extraordinary achievement in this world exists because someone dared to step into the unknown. Someone who felt the same fear you do, but refused to let it dictate their destiny. Fear thrives in silence and inaction. The longer you wait, the louder it becomes. But once you take that first step, fear loses its grip. Confidence is not something you wait to feel before moving forward. It is something you earn by moving forward while still afraid. The breakthrough you're seeking will not arrive by accident. It will come when you refuse to let fear write your story. You were not created to live small, timid, or afraid. You were made to rise, to fight, to build, and to live with courage. So whatever it is that fear is holding over you, the dream you've delayed, the conversation you've avoided, the risks you've been too hesitant to take, decide today that fear will no longer be your master. Fear is temporary, but regret lasts forever. The pain of stepping through fear is nothing compared to the pain of wondering what your life could have been if only you had dared. Choose courage. Choose action. Choose to conquer your fears, and in doing so, you will conquer your life. Fear is not a wall, but a veil. A wall is solid, immovable, something that blocks your path and forces you to stop. A veil, however, only appears to be a barrier until you decide to reach out and push through it. This is the greatest illusion fear creates in our lives. It convinces us that it is a massive obstacle, when in reality, it is a thin layer of doubt, hesitation, and uncertainty that can be pierced the moment you dare to move forward. The problem is not the strength of fear, but the power we give it by believing it is stronger than us. So many dreams remain unfulfilled, not because people lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity, but because fear disguised itself as a wall. It whispered that success was impossible, that rejection would be unbearable, that failure would be humiliating. And in that whisper, many froze, convinced that they were up against something far too strong to overcome. But those who chose to test the illusion, those who leaned forward and touched the veil, discovered that fear was never solid. The moment they acted, it gave way, and on the other side was possibility, growth, and freedom. Fear thrives in stillness. When you do nothing, when you hesitate, when you keep staring at what looks like a wall, fear grows taller and thicker in your mind. It convinces you that moving forward will end in disaster. But the moment you take even the smallest step forward, you weaken its power. It is like stepping into a foggy from the outside. It seems dense and impenetrable. But when you walk into it, you realize you can see and move just fine. Fear functions in the same way. It magnifies itself until you decide to confront it. Think about the great achievements in history. Every breakthrough, every invention, every movement of progress came from individuals who faced what looked like an impossible wall. Imagine the fear of the first person who wanted to fly, or the first leader who dared to stand against oppression, or the first voice that spoke up when everyone else was silent. They all felt fear. They all saw the veil. But they walked into it. And in doing so, they changed not only their own lives, but the lives of countless others. What if they had accepted the illusion as real? What if they had stopped, turned back, and let the so-called wall dictate their fate? The world would be far less than it is today. The same principle applies to your life. The fear you feel about pursuing your dream career, starting a business, speaking in front of others, or even admitting your deepest truth is not a solid barrier. It is not concrete. It is not unbreakable. It is a veil, delicate and fleeting, waiting for you to pierce it with courage. And once you do, you will look back and wonder why you ever believed it was so strong. Fear only lives in the shadows of what if. When you step into action, those shadows fade, and what once seemed terrifying becomes manageable. The human mind is powerful, but it can also be deceptive. It has the ability to exaggerate threats, replay worst-case scenarios, and trick you into believing the unknown is dangerous. But here is the truth. Most of the things we fear never even happen. The conversation you're afraid of having often goes smoother than you imagined. The challenge you thought was too great often becomes easier once you begin. The rejection you were dreading usually hurts less than the months you spent worrying about it. Fear thrives on imagination, but courage thrives on action. When you move, you replace the imagined with the real, and the veil falls away. Fear will never disappear completely because it is part of being human. It is meant to alert us to danger, to keep us cautious when caution is necessary. But in most cases, it is not protecting us. It is limiting us. Fear doesn't know the difference between a real threat and an opportunity for growth. It reacts the same way, sending adrenaline through your veins and urging you to run back to safety. But your life cannot be lived in constant retreat. If you allow fear to always dictate your choices, you will spend your days locked in the same small space, never experiencing the vastness of what life could be. The courage to move forward in spite of fear is not about eliminating it, it is about redefining it. When you see fear as a wall, you shrink. When you see it as a veil, you rise. That shift in perception changes everything. Suddenly, fear is no longer an endpoint. It is a doorway. Every time you encounter it, you have the chance to step through and expand your life. Each veil you pierce makes the next one easier, until fear no longer feels like an enemy, but a signal that you are on the verge of growth. So the next time you feel fear gripping you, pause and remember, this is not a wall. It cannot stop you unless you decide to stop yourself. Reach forward, take the step, push through the veil. What you desire, the life you want to live, the person you want to become, all exist on the other side. And once you realize that fear was never solid, you will never look at it the same way again. Fear may knock on your door, but it does not get to decide how far you go. Only you have that power. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act even while fear is present. Many people believe that courageous individuals are those who feel nothing when danger approaches, who are immune to self-doubt, anxiety, or hesitation. But that belief is a myth. Every person, no matter how strong or confident, experiences fear. The difference is that courageous people understand that fear is not a stop sign. It is simply a signal that they are stepping into something uncertain, something meaningful, something worth doing. They feel the same racing heartbeat, the same shaky hands, the same anxious thoughts. But instead of retreating, they move forward anyway. That is true courage. If courage required the absence of fear, hardly anyone would ever act boldly. Think about the soldier who runs into battle to protect others. Do you think he feels nothing as bullets fly around him? Of course he does. He feels fear as strongly as anyone else. Yet his mission, his values, his sense of duty push him forward. Think about the young woman who steps onto a stage for the first time to share her voice with the world. Her knees may tremble, her palms may sweat, her mind may try to talk her out of it, but she takes a deep breath and sings anyway. That is courage. Not because the fear is gone, but because she refused to let it win. Fear and courage are not enemies, they coexist. In fact, you cannot be courageous without first experiencing fear. Without fear, action requires no bravery. If climbing a mountain carried no risk, it would be nothing more than a walk. If standing up for what you believe in never brought opposition, it would be easy. The presence of fear is what makes courage meaningful. It is the tension between what frightens you and what matters to you that creates the space for courage to rise. Without that inner battle, courage would have no reason to exist. The danger lies in waiting for fear to vanish before acting. Many people put their dreams on hold because they are waiting for the day when they will feel ready. They think that once fear disappears, then they can start the business, write the book, share their ideas, or chase their dream. But fear never leaves on its own. If you wait for fear to vanish, you will wait forever. The secret is not to eliminate fear, but to move with it, to carry it with you like a shadow as you step forward. The more you act in spite of fear, the less power it has over you. Every courageous act begins with a choice. It is the choice to prioritize growth over comfort, progress over safety, purpose over fear. That choice does not make fear vanish, but it shrinks its influence. Each time you act with courage, you prove to yourself that fear's predictions are often wrong, that you are stronger than you believed, that life rewards those who dare. The first step is always the hardest because fear screams the loudest at the beginning. But once you move, once you push past that first barrier, momentum takes over, and you discover that fear was not as strong as it seemed. Courage is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows with use. The more you practice acting while afraid, the easier it becomes. Maybe your fear is speaking in public, or having a difficult conversation, or taking a risk on an idea. Start small. Do the thing that scares you just a little, and when you survive it, do something a little bigger. Each time you do, you prove to yourself that fear does not have the final word. Slowly, you build the resilience and confidence to face even bigger challenges. Eventually, what once terrified you becomes routine, and fear loses its power. History is filled with examples of ordinary people who acted with extraordinary courage while still afraid. Martin Luther King Jr. admitted to moments of deep fear as he stood up against injustice, but his courage came from deciding that his purpose was greater than his fear. Malala Yousafzai felt fear when she stood up for girls' education, but her determination to create change outweighed her doubts. Every great leader, every innovator, every trailblazer who has shaped history carried fear with them, but refused to let it silence them. That same power lives in you, waiting to be claimed through courageous choices. When you shift your mindset and stop seeing fear as a signal to stop, you unlock your potential. Fear no longer becomes the enemy, but the compass. If something scares you, it usually means it matters. It means you are stretching, growing, stepping beyond the boundaries of comfort. That is where courage is born. Instead of waiting for fear to fade, recognize it as a sign that you are on the right path, that you are about to expand your life in ways that comfort never could. Remember, this courage is not about feeling fearless. It is about moving forward even while fear rides on your shoulders. It is about choosing to believe in your purpose more than your doubts, about trusting your strength more than your excuses. You will never be without fear, but you can live without letting fear control you. The moment you realize that, you become unstoppable. So when fear rises up inside you, don't wait for it to disappear. Don't convince yourself that courage means being fearless. Take the step anyway. Speak when your voice shakes. Move when your legs tremble. Act when your heart races. That is what it means to be courageous. And once you begin to live this way, you will discover that fear never really had the power to stop you. It was only there to remind you of how much your next step truly matters. Comfort zones never lead to growth. They are the safe spaces where routine lives, where everything feels predictable and manageable. Inside the comfort zone, you rarely face risks, and you rarely face failure. It feels like a warm, familiar room where you know exactly where everything is, and nothing surprises you. But here is the truth: nothing grows in that room. You cannot expand your potential, achieve your biggest dreams, or discover who you truly are if you refuse to step outside of it. Comfort may feel good, but it slowly robs you of progress. Growth requires discomfort, uncertainty, and challenge. Things that cannot exist within the boundaries of safety. When you look at the people you admire most, the leaders, innovators, and achievers who changed the world, none of them stayed in comfort. They all had to risk stepping into the unknown. An inventor had to risk ridicule when presenting a new idea. An athlete had to push past the pain of training to become great. An entrepreneur had to face rejection and loss before finding success. The comfort zone would have kept them where they began, but stepping out of it allowed them to build a life and legacy that mattered. Their courage to embrace discomfort became the foundation of their growth. The comfort zone feels like protection, but in reality, it is a prison. It tells you that staying safe is better than failing, that avoiding risk is better than facing disappointment, that doing the familiar is better than chasing something extraordinary. But the longer you stay in that space, the smaller your world becomes. You start to settle, convincing yourself that what you have is enough, even when you know deep down you are capable of more. You begin to silence your dreams, telling yourself they are unrealistic. This is the cost of comfort, safety at the expense of growth. Growth, on the other hand, happens in the stretch. It happens when you take on something that feels beyond you, when you face challenges that test your patience, resilience, and creativity. Think about how muscles grow. They grow only when they are stressed, when they are pushed beyond their usual limits. The fibers tear, and in healing, they become stronger. The same applies to your life. Without stress, without challenge, without stepping beyond comfort, there is no growth. Discomfort is the very soil where strength, wisdom, and resilience are cultivated. The truth is, your dreams do not live in the comfort zone. They live in the space just outside of it, the space where fear and excitement meet. That is where you discover new opportunities, hidden talents, and unexpected strength. When you take the step out of comfort, you invite change, and change is the first step toward transformation. Yes, it is scary. Yes, it feels uncertain, but that uncertainty is where the magic lies. Every major breakthrough in your life will come from the decision to embrace discomfort rather than run from it. Think back to times in your life when you grew the most. Was it when everything was easy, predictable, and safe? Or was it when you faced challenges that forced you to dig deeper? Growth rarely comes from easy seasons. It comes from failures that taught you resilience, from risks that forced you to learn, from struggles that revealed your strength. The comfort zone shields you from pain, but it also shields you from the very experiences that shape your character and potential. Staying in comfort may feel like control, but over time it leads to regret. People rarely look back at life and regret the chances they took. More often, they regret the chances they never took. They regret the dreams they never chased because fear told them to stay comfortable. The tragedy of a life spent in comfort is not what you experienced, it's what you missed. You missed the opportunity to see what you are truly capable of, to experience the fullness of life, to create something lasting and meaningful. The comfort zone will always call to you. It will tempt you with ease, with familiarity, with the promise of safety. But if you listen too long, you will waste years waiting for the right time to step out. There is no right time. Growth does not wait. The moment you step beyond your comfort zone, even in small ways, you begin to expand. Each risk you take builds courage. Each challenge you face builds resilience. Each step into the unknown increases your belief in what you can handle. Before long, the very things that once scared you become your new normal, and you realize your capacity is far greater than you imagined. To live a life of growth, you must train yourself to welcome discomfort. See it as a sign that you are moving in the right direction. The nerves before a big opportunity mean you are stretching. The fear before a bold decision means you are stepping closer to your potential. The uncertainty before a new chapter means you are about to expand your life. If you always choose comfort, you choose limitation. But if you choose growth, you choose possibility. So do not let the comfort zone lull you into mediocrity. Do not let fear convince you that safety is better than growth. Your destiny does not live in the familiar. It lives in the stretch, in the risk, in the bold step forward. When you dare to leave comfort behind, you open the door to a life filled with discovery, achievement, and meaning. Growth will never come easy, but it will always be worth it. Comfort zones never lead to growth, and growth is the only path to becoming the person you were meant to be. Confidence is built through action, not through waiting, wishing, or hoping. Many people mistakenly believe that they must first feel confident before they take action, that somehow certainty will arrive before the first step is taken. But confidence is never a prerequisite, it is a result. It is forged in the fire of doing, in the experience of stepping forward despite doubt. The more you act, the more evidence you create that you are capable, and the stronger your confidence becomes. Waiting for confidence before you act is like waiting to get stronger before you lift weights. It doesn't work that way. Strength comes by lifting, and confidence comes by acting. Think of the first time you tried something new. Perhaps it was riding a bicycle, learning to swim, or speaking in front of a group. You didn't feel confident at first. You may have stumbled, fallen, or even failed, but with every attempt your skills grew. With every repetition your body and mind adapted. And with every small victory your confidence expanded. That growth was not born in thinking about the task, but in doing it. You didn't wait for confidence to magically appear. You created it through action. Confidence is not arrogance, and it is not pretending to have no fear. It is the quiet, steady belief that you can handle what lies ahead, built from the proof of your own efforts. The only way to gain that proof is through experience. You can read about swimming for years, but until you jump in the water, you will never believe in your ability to swim. You can plan and research your business idea endlessly, but until you take the leap to start, you will never know you can succeed. Confidence grows with each step into the unknown, each choice to act despite uncertainty. The trap many fall into is thinking that confidence comes from perfection. They believe that if they could guarantee flawless execution, then they would feel secure. But perfection is not possible, and it is not where confidence is born. Confidence is built when you face challenges, when you stumble, when you learn, and when you rise again. Every mistake is a lesson, every setback is practice, and every attempt is a deposit into the bank of confidence. The people who appear most confident are often those who have failed the most, because failure taught them that they could survive and grow stronger. Action is powerful because it silences fear. Fear thrives in waiting. When you stand still, your mind fills with doubts, overanalyzing every possibility, magnifying every risk. But once you act, fear loses its grip. Even if the outcome isn't perfect, you now have real experience instead of imagined disaster. Action shifts your perspective from what if to what is. And in that shift, confidence grows. Every step forward, no matter how small, chips away at fear and builds the foundation of belief in yourself. Confidence is also built through consistency. One action may spark courage, but repeated action creates unshakable belief. A speaker who steps on stage once may feel proud, but a speaker who returns again and again eventually develops natural confidence. A runner who trains daily builds the endurance not just in body but in mind, believing in their ability because they have proven it countless times. Consistency is how action transforms into mastery, and mastery is where confidence truly thrives. It is important to remember that confidence does not mean you will never feel nervous or doubtful again. Even the most accomplished people feel moments of uncertainty. The difference is that they have built enough confidence through action to trust themselves. They know that even if things go wrong, they will figure it out, because they always have before. That trust is not built on theory. It is built on lived experience, on countless moments of action that prove their resilience. If you want to build confidence, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop telling yourself that one day you'll feel ready. Readiness is created, not found. Begin where you are, with what you have, and take the first step. That step may feel small, but it matters. It creates momentum, and momentum creates progress. As progress builds, so does your confidence. Over time, you will look back and realize that the person who once hesitated has been replaced by someone who believes deeply in their own strength. The beauty of confidence built through action is that it cannot be easily shaken. Compliments may fade, external validation may disappear, but the confidence you create for yourself through action is lasting. It is rooted in evidence you cannot deny. You did the thing. You faced the fear. You overcame the challenge. No one can take that away from you. It becomes part of who you are, part of your identity, and it shapes how you approach every new obstacle in your path. So if you want confidence, take action today. Speak even if your voice trembles. Try even if you fear failing. Step forward even if you cannot see the entire path. Every act of courage, no matter how small, is a seed planted in the soil of confidence. With time, those seeds grow into a garden of unshakable belief in yourself. Remember, confidence is not waiting for fear to vanish. It is acting in spite of it, again and again, until you know without a doubt that you are capable of handling whatever life places before you. Fear is temporary, regret is permanent. In the moment, fear feels overwhelming. It tightens your chest, floods your mind with doubt, and convinces you that stepping forward will lead to disaster. It feels so heavy that it seems like the safest choice is to step back, to stay comfortable, to avoid the risk altogether. But here is the truth: fear is fleeting. It shows up before action, sometimes during, but it fades the moment you move forward. The trembling hands eventually steady, the racing heartbeat eventually calms, and the voice of doubt eventually quiets. Fear is a visitor. It arrives suddenly, lingers for a while, but always leaves. Regret, on the other hand, does not fade so easily. Regret settles into your heart and mind, replaying what could have been whispering. If only, long after the chance has passed. It is not temporary. It can last for years, even a lifetime. Every decision you make when fear is present has two possible outcomes. You face it and experience its temporary sting, or you avoid it and carry the lasting weight of regret. Think about the opportunities you've already missed because fear stopped you. Maybe it was the words you never said, the leap you never took, the dream you left waiting. In the moment, the fear felt like too much, so you stepped back. But months or years later, you still think about what might have happened if you had been braver. That is the difference. Fear fades, but regret lingers. Fear tries to protect you, but it exaggerates the danger. It tells you the worst possible outcome, magnifies it, and convinces you it is certain. Yet most of the time, when you finally face the thing you were afraid of, you realize it was never as bad as you imagined. You survive the failure, you learn from the mistake, you grow stronger from the rejection. And eventually, you even laugh at what once terrified you. But regret offers no such gift. Regret gives you nothing to grow from because you never acted. It locks you in endless what-if scenarios with no resolution, no growth, no closure. That is why it hurts far more deeply than fear ever could. When you choose to face fear, you trade short-term discomfort for long-term pride. You get to look back and say, I showed up, I was brave. Even if the outcome isn't what you hoped for, you gain confidence, resilience, and wisdom. But when you choose avoidance, you trade a few moments of safety for a lifetime of wondering what could have been. The opportunity passes, the door closes, and the chance may never return. The pain of regret often grows heavier with time, because you cannot go back and change the choice you made. Imagine yourself at the end of your life, looking back at the choices you made. Will you regret the things you tried and failed at, or the things you never tried at all? Most people regret the chances they didn't take. They regret letting fear keep them silent, letting fear hold them back, letting fear decide their path. They regret staying comfortable instead of chasing what truly mattered to them. Fear wins in the moment, but regret wins in the long run if you let fear control you. That is why it is so important to remember that fear is temporary. Whatever discomfort you feel in facing it will pass, but the regret of not facing it may never leave. The beautiful thing about fear is that it cannot last forever. The body cannot stay in a state of high adrenaline for long. Your nerves calm, your heart slows, your breathing steadies. Once you act, the fear begins to fade, replaced by relief, pride, or even joy. This is why people often look back at moments they were terrified and laugh about how scared they were. But regret is not something you laugh at later. It is something you carry. It becomes a shadow that follows you, a reminder that you allowed fear to decide for you. And every time you remember it, you feel that weight again. When you understand the difference between fear and regret, you start to see that fear is not the enemy, it is the test. It is there to challenge you, to see if you want something badly enough to step through discomfort to claim it. When you rise to that challenge, you get to build a life of courage and fulfillment. When you shrink back, you inherit the quiet ache of regret. Both paths are difficult, but one leads to growth and freedom, while the other leads to stagnation and longing. The next time you feel fear holding you back, pause and ask yourself, which pain would I rather carry? The temporary discomfort of facing this fear, or the lifelong weight of regretting that I didn't? That question alone can shift your perspective. Because when you realize that regret will hurt far more deeply, and for far longer than fear ever could, courage becomes the obvious choice. Fear will pass, but regret will stay. You cannot afford to give fear that kind of power over your life. Life is too short to let fear steal your chances. Opportunities come and go, and once they pass, they may never come again. Do not let temporary fear rob you of permanent joy, growth, and fulfillment. Take the step, speak the truth, make the leap. Yes, you will feel fear, but when it fades, and it always does, you will be left with pride instead of regret. And that pride will fuel you for the next challenge, building a life free from the heavy weight of what if. Fear is temporary, regret is permanent. Choose the path that fades, not the one that lingers. Choose courage today so you can live tomorrow without looking back in sorrow. Your future self will thank you for every moment. You chose bravery over hesitation, action over avoidance, growth over comfort. The fear you face today will be gone tomorrow, but the regret of never trying could stay with you forever. Conquering fear transforms your destiny. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human life because it shapes the decisions we make, the paths we choose, and ultimately, the kind of future we create for ourselves. Every time you allow fear to dictate your actions, you shrink your possibilities. You step away from opportunities. You silence your voice. You hold back your potential. But when you face fear head on and choose courage instead, you alter the course of your life. That single decision to move forward in the face of fear can change not only your circumstances, but also who you become and the destiny you fulfill. Fear convinces you that safety is the wisest choice, that staying where you are is better than venturing into the unknown. And yet destiny does not live in safety. It lives in risk, in challenge, in the leaps that require bravery. The person who avoids fear may live a life of comfort, but it will be a small life, confined to what is easy and predictable. The person who conquers fear, however, steps into a larger life, one filled with growth, discovery, and possibilities that others never experience. Conquering fear expands your future in ways you cannot even imagine while you remain trapped by it. When you conquer fear, you begin to unlock the talents and strengths that were buried under doubt. Fear often hides your potential, convincing you that you are not capable of achieving great things. It whispers that you are not ready, not talented enough, not strong enough. But the moment you challenge those lies by taking action, you discover abilities you never knew you had. Fear was never a true reflection of your limits. It was only a shadow cast over your potential. Breaking through it allows you to see clearly what you are capable of, and that awareness transforms the direction of your life. Consider the countless stories of people who changed the world by refusing to be ruled by fear. Leaders who stood against injustice, innovators who introduced bold new ideas, individuals who dared to pursue their passions despite criticism. All of them felt fear. But instead of allowing it to silence them, they conquered it. And because they did, their lives impacted generations. Their destiny was not shaped by fear, but by the courage to overcome it. Your story may not make headlines, but the same truth applies. Conquering fear allows you to live fully, to pursue the path meant for you, and to leave behind a legacy of courage instead of caution. Fear cannot be eliminated entirely, but it can be mastered. Each time you choose to confront it, you weaken its hold over you. Each time you act despite trembling hands or a racing heart, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than fear. That proof accumulates, and soon you no longer see fear as an unbeatable enemy, but as a challenge you know you can overcome. And with that mindset, you approach life differently. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I succeed?" That shift changes your destiny because it opens doors you would never have dared to walk through otherwise. Destiny is not something that simply happens to you. It is something you create through your choices. Every courageous choice, every moment of bravery, every step through fear redirects your path. Fear might point you toward retreat, but courage points you toward growth. And growth is what carries you into the life you were meant to live. If you refuse to conquer fear, your destiny will be one of limitation, shaped by avoidance and hesitation. But if you conquer it, your destiny becomes one of expansion, shaped by boldness and determination. It is also important to realize that conquering fear does more than transform your personal destiny. It impacts the lives of others. When you face fear, you inspire those around you to do the same. Your courage becomes a light, showing others that it is possible. Think of how often people are encouraged by seeing someone else step forward, whether it's speaking out for justice, chasing a dream, or daring to be authentic. Fear is contagious, but so is courage. By conquering your fear, you give permission for others to conquer theirs, and that ripple effect changes destinies far beyond your own. There will always be moments when fear tries to block your path. It will try to rise up before every big decision, every bold step, every leap into the unknown. But each time you conquer it, you transform not just the moment, but your future. You set yourself on a different trajectory, one that leads to fulfillment, strength, and purpose. What once seemed impossible becomes part of your reality, and what once seemed terrifying becomes a story of victory. This is how destinies are written, one act of courage at a time. So do not let fear dictate your story. Do not let it hold the pen that writes your future. Every time you choose courage over fear, you are shaping a destiny filled with possibility rather than regret. You are building a life that reflects your true potential instead of your deepest doubts. Fear will always try to stand in your way, but remember, this fear is temporary, and its power ends the moment you decide to face it. Courage, however, leaves a lasting mark. It transforms your life, your destiny, and the destiny of those you inspire. Conquering fear transforms your destiny because it allows you to step fully into the person you were created to be. It takes you beyond limitation, beyond hesitation, into a life of growth and impact. Fear may always exist, but it never has to control you. Choose courage again and again, and watch how your life unfolds into something greater than you ever imagined. Your destiny is waiting, but only courage can take you there.